I'm Christine Giordano. I'm here on Amelia Island at the site of our very first annual Fall Institutional Retreat for Markets Group. I'm with Walter Kress. He's the CIO of EY. Thank you for being here, Walter.
Great to be here at this event. This lovely weather down here. Thank you.
Walter has been so involved with our panels, he actually launched our keynote fireside chat with.
Mike Dorrell, who is the CEO and founder of Stonepeak.
Walter, you had some great takeaways, and you also were on a fixed income panel, and you also just said a poignant speech for our honoree, Ash Williams. So let's start with some key takeaways from your fireside chat with Mike Dorrell.
So, what a great opportunity to be able to interview somebody who's been so influential in the infrastructure industry. Even though I haven't been able to invest there for the last 9 years at EY, I did have some experience there previously. So, catching up on what's gone on in infrastructure since then, the changes, the landscape, how they integrate things like demographics into their modeling, I think was really insightful yesterday. I had great opportunity to talk to an industry leader.
Now, you couldn't invest in Stonepeak because you have to remain liquid within your investments at EY.
Right, that's just due to our SEC independence requirements.
Makes sense. So, what did you learn about demographics?
Well, he was talking about how they integrate, since infrastructure is such a long dated asset, how they integrate that into their modeling and thinking about where demographics are improving or perhaps heading in the other direction. Since these assets typically are in place for decades, quite frankly. So negative impact from demographics could have a meaningful negative impact on the use of some of these infrastructure assets, and just the reverse being true too. So these younger, more rapidly growing countries where there's a good rule of law is a great opportunity for them in a myriad of ways.
I think he mentioned 12% returns each year.
He did, and not sure if those were gross or net, but even at a net return underneath that, still quite attractive. I think one of the advantages of infrastructure is a great deal of that return comes through cash flow and distributions, not just an improvement in value.
Fascinating. Okay. So, what are you watching in particular when you, let's just say you could invest in infrastructure? What would you have your eye on in this current economy?
Well, I think some of it has to do with the build out for the infrastructure around AI and data centers and power generation and, quite frankly, transmission to those. There are pieces that have a moat around them or have protection around them that I think are very interesting. And there are others that are exposed that other people can come in and replicate with capital. So I think the concept of a great infrastructure investment is one that kind of keeps everybody else away and either has a long-term contract, which many of these do, including the new data centers, or a long-dated asset like an airport or a port.
Okay. You're also on the fixed income panel. And so, what are some of the key takeaways from that one?
I think some of the key takeaways is people are wrestling right now with things like duration. Is the Fed going to cut again? There's discussion of perhaps a couple of cuts and maybe a raise on the backside of that. There's a fair amount of uncertainty there. Credit spreads have never been tighter, but there's still some opportunities out there in things like multi-asset credit, and then correct positioning versus whatever objective that you have. We have some long-dated liabilities in some of our pension plans. Others, we had a treasurer on the board as well who's thinking more about structure and staying up the capital stack, and securitized and asset-backed securities are part of that solution as well.
Is anything changing within this current economy, or are there any moves that are about to be made with interest rates that you can talk about? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm not really a prognosticator on interest rates. That's not my role, but I think about the chances of outcomes, and what could happen if they went up, what could happen if they went down, and then handicapping that to some extent to try to frame at least a boundary of where we ought to be thinking about positioning.
Your advice to allocators who perhaps aren't as experienced with fixed income.
I would say consider the entire array. So too many people just look at investment grade or core plus. Actually very keen also on seeing continued build out for fixed income within the 401k marketplace with perhaps a slightly longer duration now that we have good carry, good yields that we didn't have 4 or 5 years ago.
And you just came off the stage with a very poignant speech for our celebrant, Ash Williams, who has just been inducted into the CIO Hall of Fame. Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, Ash and I have known each other. I've known Ash for only about 3 years personally. I've been following for years, but we found a myriad of intersections that were very common between the two of us and became friends. And he's become a mentor for me that much more. Somebody I can call very easily and lean on when I have a situation that I want to pass by somebody who's had a tremendous amount of experience, and I think is really one of the very best of all time stewards of capital and fiduciaries.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Been great.